Welcome to 1202, the Human Factors Podcast. The podcast that covers all things about humans, technology, and particularly the bit in between.
And welcome to this episode of 1202, the Human Factors Podcast, with me, your host, Barry Kirby. Today's episode is continuing a theme that I started with Jill Poots a few episodes ago, looking at really the human issues involved in the agricultural sector. However, before we get into that, I would just like to announce that I'm really, really proud and really delighted to have been elected as president-elect of the Chartered Institute of Ergonomics and Human Factors. And for the next 12 months, I will be president-elect supporting Alex Stedman in his year as presidency. And then in 23-24, I'll be president of the organization. So I'm really, really keen to hear your thoughts and your ideas about what I should be doing in my year as president and what I can do now to prepare for that. If you've been had experience in this sort of setup, and you want to give me your words of wisdom of how you dealt with being a high representative of an organization, I'll be very delighted to hear from you. But if you're a member, or you're even thinking about being a member, what could I do in my year of presidency to encourage you to join and encourage you to get more involved? Please do get in touch through any of the socials or an email or smoke signals, whatever. Just come and talk to me. Anyway, today's episode. As I've said previously, I've always been fascinated by the agriculture sector, and even more so with the development of technology that's been utilized to really enable fewer people on a farm to do an awful lot more. From GPS-enabled tractors, the use of IoT technology, looking at things like air quality, soil quality, water quality, so farmers can really use what is needed and when, and being able to really optimize their time. It's not only just using how it's used now, but actually how we go and teach the farmers of tomorrow, those people involved in agriculture of tomorrow. So I'm really delighted today to be talking to John Owen, who is the farm and project manager at Gelli Aur, which is part of Coleg Sir Gar. And they provide agriculture, forestry, countryside management, and land-based engineering courses. And John is here to give us a bit of an insight into the current use of technology, and particularly IoT. So, John, great to have you with us, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Barry.
So, John, obviously I give you a title of your farm and project manager at Gelli Aur, which if people find your LinkedIn, that's what you put yourself up there as. But what is it you do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, actually, Barry, my title is no longer the farm manager. I did spend 25 years managing the farms here at Gelli Aur. I'm now concentrating all my efforts on the project work and the development of technology within agriculture. So, although my roots are in sort of hands-on farming, I'm no longer sort of involved as much as I was in the day-to-day running of the farm.
Right. Okay. So, what sort of projects then do you get involved in, and what sort of projects are you running?
Well, people occasionally think of agriculture as being rather a sort of a backward industry, but that's far from the truth, to be honest. We're involved in a number of technology developments, and the industry in general is involved in very high-tech sort of developments and the use of IT, the use of satellite navigation, that sort of thing is becoming more and more important in the industry. Personally, here we've concentrated our efforts lately on environmental development, and we're actually trying to improve efficiency at the same time as actually improving sort of our environmental footprint.
Okay, so before we get stuck into the main bits of what you're doing, could you just give us, for those who are unaware, what is Gelli Aur, and how does that fit into the whole educational sphere?
Well, the Gelli Aur campus is one of 5 campuses from within the Coleg Sir Gar Coleg Ceredigion group. Our sort of parent sort of institution is the University of Trinity St David's as well. So it's sort of a well-established sort of further and higher education establishment.
Cool. And for those of you who are in England, the idea of Coleg Sir Gar is actually Carmarthenshire College, effectively, just to do a loose translation. So that's cool. So what we're going to come and talk on to next is around the what decision do people need to make in agriculture, etc., etc. But we'll come back into that straight after this break.
You are listening to 1202, the Human Factors Podcast. We wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you for your support. You can help further by rating us through your podcast provider, sharing us through social media, and telling your friends and colleagues. Let's work together in raising awareness of the value in putting users at the centre of what we do.
And welcome back. And we're talking to John Owen from Gelli Aur of Coleg Sir Gar. John, we sort of talked about the premise I put this on is around technology and the technology input. But taking a step back, I mean, really, what we're doing is providing a whole lot of data, which normally when people look at IoT and things like that, it's around helping people make decisions, I guess, or more informed decisions. That element. So, what decision making do farmers need to do, or is it just farmers? Is there a broader audience here in agriculture?
Well, we certainly have a broader audience, but sort of we're specifically working with farmers in our current projects. And one of the projects that we're sort of developing at the moment is called Tywydd Weather. And weather has a very, very important effect on agriculture and all of the operations within agriculture. And I don't think there's any other industry that relies so much on sort of the weather for the outcomes in what is basically sort of food production. So we're trying to produce food as cheaply and as efficiently as possible. And sort of knowing exactly what the weather is going to be doing is very, very important in that aspect. Efficiency is the name of the game, and if weather conditions are not right, then you will lose efficiency on the inputs that you put into the ground, and any inefficiency with the use of nutrients quite often leads to environmental contamination. So we're custodians of the environment as farmers. The long-term sort of healthy, sort of prolonged healthy lifetime of the land is really important to us. So really, we're generally trying to sort of maintain sort of environmental sort of conditions, improve the quality of the land in order to improve our efficiency in food production.
So when you come into sort of decision making, then is this something that you're doing months in advance, or is it literally, right, because of this information I'm reading now on this weather app, I'm going to change what I'm doing today? Is it so? What sort of lead time are we talking about in terms of decision making?
Well, as farmers and growers, we work to a calendar, Barry, and we predict sort of what operations sort of we're going to be doing based on that calendar year. But actually, sort of our day-to-day sort of decisions sort of need to look at current conditions and forecasts for the next 4 or 5 days. So the app that sort of we've put together is basically supporting farmers in their day-to-day operations, right, and how they can efficiently apply nutrients to the ground in a very short time frame. So there's an element of long-term planning and short-term planning, and data-driven decision making sort of is more related to the day-to-day decision making.
You talked about this then. How leading edge is that in the agriculture sector? Is everybody got it, or are you pioneering in this respect?
We're certainly pioneering in it. Sort of the technology that we're using is sort of available sort of world over, but it's actually applying it to a specific sort of purpose. And really that's what we're developing sort of here, is we're applying it to particular circumstances where livestock farmers can make use of the data capture that's available generally across the world. And what we're trying to do is to make that data available in a very, very simplistic, quick to use format, and make it so that it can work alongside their overall nutrient management planning on the farm. They can capture the data, store that data, and use that data as part of their nutrient management planning, but they can also use it as part of their sort of compliance procedure in the environmental aspect of their farming operations as well.
Could you just tell us a bit more about the aspect? What do they have to comply with?
Well, the sort of legislations sort of within agriculture as there are with most industries, and certainly environmental contamination is one of those things that we have to adhere against. So misuse of homegrown nutrients, slurries, if you like, and if that ends up in the watercourse, that then could lead to prosecution, and more importantly, to environmental sort of damage within the rivers and loss of life within the rivers as well if it's not handled properly.
So if we apply technologies, these IoT technologies, and I guess the ones as well, which we'll go on to, what advantages does that give farmers?
Well, it's all about efficiency, as I said, Barry. It's really sort of, we as livestock producers have a lot of homegrown farm nutrients, sort of call it farmyard manure, if you like, or call it slurry. And to make the best use of those nutrients, sort of, they have to be applied at the right time. When the nutrients are applied to the crop has to be in a situation where it can actually make use of those nutrients. Otherwise, those nutrients are just floating around in the soil and can be sort of washed away if the crop doesn't take up those nutrients.
So how are you using this sort of technology to teach students about what they should be doing as farmers? What sort of interaction do the students get with what you're doing?
Well, the farm and the academic campus are based on the same site. We look at the farm as our lab, if you compare it to other sort of scientific sort of teaching establishments. So they can discuss it in class 1 minute and step out through the door straight onto the farm and actually see it in operation.
That's really impressive. A real application point for them, especially with it seems to be up and down the UK that a lot of these agricultural colleges seem to be either closing or restricting their activities. So it's really impressive that you're pushing this sort of technology stuff forward.
Yeah, I believe sort of it. The research and development work that we do is our shop window, if you like. This is how we engage with the industry. And when the industry then sort of starts to look for colleges for their sons, daughters, and employees to come and learn, then they'll have seen the research and development work that we're involved with, and hopefully that will sort of persuade them in order to send their youngsters or sort of more mature sort of learners to us as well.
How popular is agriculture as courses for learning for young people nowadays? Because it seems to have been that it's gone on the decline over a number of years. But are you seeing any sort of change in that where people want to engage?
Well, agriculture does offer plenty of opportunities, sort of, and well-paid opportunities, and that actually is quite sort of different to most people's perspective of the industry. There are sort of all levels of employment within agriculture, from sort of very scientific-based sort of research opportunities, all the way down to sort of the more practical element of the farming operation. So there's something for everybody there, and actually they can be very, very well-paid sort of opportunities as well.
Everybody likes stuff that's well-paid, so that's always good. You mentioned the weather app as one, but what other technologies are you getting involved with there on the farm?
Well, our current sort of main project is called the Towie Farm Nutrient Partnership. It's a smart expertise project, and we're very, very proud to have been the first further education establishment to be awarded smart expertise funding. The way the smart expertise works, it works in conjunction with commercial sort of partners alongside the research establishment. And it's a shared responsibility project, so that for every pound that we can draw down from our commercial farmers, and then Welsh Government then will match that pound for pound. And that goes towards the research on behalf of all of the partners involved in the project. So I feel it's a great funding model, and I think it's a model that should be adopted sort of wider, and could well be something that Welsh Government could be looking at post sort of European funded research development projects like this.
That sounds fascinating. Funded model. What sort of technologies is that bringing through for you?
Well, we're working with 8 partners in all. There are 4 multinational companies with sort of billions of pound turnover involved in the project. The benefit of working with those multinational companies is that we then have exposure overseas, and a lot of the work we do here is as applicable sort of overseas as it is to the Welsh agricultural sort of industry as well. So it's great exposure working with these larger companies. We're also working with UK-based and Welsh-based companies as well. And hopefully, by working with those more local companies, we're able to encourage further employment within the industry, sort of once the new technology we develop becomes mainstream and is sort of adopted on farms in the locality.
I even hear a vicious rumour that you're producing your own drinking water, or you're very close to producing your own drinking water.
We are closer than we ever envisaged at the start, Barry. We have taken the first total bacteriology count of the last stage of the treatment now, and the water that we're generating from the treatment process is as clean as what the company who sampled the water for us sees on a day-to-day basis in cattle drinking troughs. So the aim originally was to get the water to a recyclable quality, to a discharge quality, I beg your pardon. We've now changed our focus entirely over to recycling the water. And that may sound a bit sort of unsavory to you, but actually if you look at the analogy that the Thames water is recycled 10 times from water treatment to freshwater abstraction, then there's nothing new in this sort of whatsoever.
No, I guess for people's reference, the project is called Project Slurry, and obviously it starts from slurry and ends up in clear water. And you've just been at a conference which exemplifies that process in front of everybody. I mean, what sort of reaction did it get?
Well, we sort of working on the basis that we are looking to recycle the water. We actually commissioned sort of water bottles and sort of mineral water that I sort of can assure you wasn't taken from the recycled water, but it actually was a great talking point and a great sort of introduction to discussion, because we offered people water that was branded as ARC, the Agricultural Research Centre, which they automatically assumed, obviously, that was originated from slurry. But obviously, we were on hand to assure them that that wasn't the case. And the sort of official branding on the bottles sort of would actually exonerate sort of ourselves from any sort of risk associated with giving recycled water to customers on our stand.
Nice disclaimer there thrown in. I like that. John, thank you for that. That's been really interesting insight into how you're using technology, and particularly about how you're going on to educate the next generation of how the IoT and data and then future technologies can help the decision making within the farming community. Because they're one of the things I said from the office, the number of, it always stuns me, the number of people who are involved in the farm, it now seems tiny. You watch, documentaries of, like Victorian farms and all that sort, and there was lots and lots of people on the farm, just casual labor. And now you see documentaries today where you've got 1 or 2 people on the farm doing so much work, but leveraging technology to a massive amount.
Absolutely.
So I think before I let you go, I've got my my final 3 questions that I ask everybody who I interview. If you have a particular book or paper or a reference, and it could be technical, or it could be a fictional book, what is it one thing you keep on going back to?
I don't have a particular book, Barry, but and I'm not sort of during working times, I'm not a big reader, a casual reader anyway. Read a lot of technical pamphlets and information, obviously. But given a bit of time off and some holiday time, I'm really like reading autobiographies, in particular sports autobiographies.
Oh, cool. If you could go back in time and talk to young John, what advice would you give your younger self?
That's a difficult one, isn't it? I think my career path has been exciting. It's given me a real mix of practical, hands-on involvement. I did a bit of travelling before I settled down to full-time employment as well. And actually, probably a bit of advice to my younger self would just to spend a few more years traveling before settling down and working full time.
So I haven't got around to the travelling thing yet in any great extent, so I'm hoping to get on to that. Perhaps when the children are slightly older. And just because I'm almost too lazy to go and look up interesting people, who would you suggest I interview on a future podcast?
Well, we work together occasionally, Barry, and you've already met Dyfrig from Teledu Telescope. I think Dyfrig would be a great addition to your podcast.
Great. I shall go and at our next meeting, I shall grab him afterwards and see what he says. John, it's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you very much for your time. It's been really insightful. Just a reminder to everybody that the Ergonomics Conference is ongoing at the moment. So we've had the online session, which was Monday and Tuesday of this week, where we covered sustainability, automation, defense, and UX. I was very privileged to be able to interview Brett John from the FSB and talk about how we are looking at sustainability in the future. There was also some other really interesting papers on there, and if you've got access, it's all been recorded, so you can go back and see that. But that's only half the story, because we have the physical meetup on the 25th and 26th of April in Birmingham, where I believe there's still tickets available. So if you're interested in going to look at things like human factors in aviation, well-being, healthcare, then and non-technical skills, which we've talked about in agriculture on this podcast before. So we're also going to be taking this podcast to Birmingham. So if you see us there, then come, and I'm going to try and have a couple of drinks on hand so we can have a chat about what your interest in human factors is and how you're finding the conference. So all that remains for me to say is to, again, thank you to John for engaging with us, and to you, the listener, and we will see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to 1202, the Human Factors Podcast. Please do get in touch with your thoughts, questions, and comments. You can contact us on social media such as Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook at 1202 Podcast. See you next time. And remember, it's more than just common sense.